Welcome to the Meat Dudes. I'm Evan.
I'm Tyler.
And we're joined today by Adam of Plum Creek Wagyu out in Nebraska. How are you doing, Adam?
I'm great. How you guys doing? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. No, thank you. This is great. So you sent us a package, a nice meat box here from Nebraska to Washington. We unloaded that bad boy, and it was awesome. It was really cool to see some of the different ways you do things, and we'll get into all how you raise your cattle and what you feed them, the corn fed, everything. Man, I took home that tenderloin and just cooked it up, and bro, it was so good. And you told me specifically, like, pay attention to the flavor profile, because it was a little bit different than what I'm used to over here. We get a lot of barley finished and things like that.
Yep.
But dude, it was awesome. It was really cool. And the thing that I love about Wagyu is that you can freeze it and just let it defrost the right way, man, and it's still luscious and beautiful.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm glad you liked it.
Skirt steaks.
Oh yeah.
Skirt steaks.
Yeah.
Yum.
Dude.
Yeah.
I'm a fan.
You got the skirts in the I did some shabu shabu too. That was cool. That was my first time kind of doing that, and
yeah.
Dude, that was rocking.
I mean,
I put it in my cast iron with some Wagyu fat and just kind of rolled the hot fat over it and flipped it once.
Yep.
Bro, it was delicious.
There's a lot of simple ways to cook it. It's like super easy. You can do a lot of things with it, and like, it's just super easy. You can cook them in a hot pot. Yeah. You could just pan fry it like a piece of bacon, and it's amazing.
That's kind of how it was, man. So where does that come from usually, when you're cutting those off?
We get that. I'm not a butcher, so bear with me, but we get it off the meaty side of the ribs.
Yeah.
Usually. Yeah. There's a couple other places they get it. I'd like to try to stick just to the ribs because it's better. It's got better marbling in that area, and it looks kind of more uniform. They've taken it off some other areas, but I really like the stuff that comes off the ribs the best.
I was right.
Yeah. So what did you say it was, Tyler?
I thought it looked like short rib plate.
Yeah, kind of like short rib plate. Yeah, it kind of looked like that. Yeah. Oh man, that was dope.
It was beautiful.
Yes, it was.
It's kind of hard to beat.
Dude, it was. Hey Matt, let's quickly get into your background about Wagyu and raising cattle, how you got into it, and why you chose Wagyu beef. And I'd love to hear about that.
Absolutely. So I lived in town for the longest time when we had our two kids, and let's see, when we moved out in the country, it would have been about 7 years ago. So they would have been like 9 and 10 years old, my two daughters. And so the place that we bought near town had cattle at it when we bought it. And so it was really easy just to get a few cattle because we already had waters and stuff. So we started out real small, got a few commercial cattle from the sale barn. We raised some bottle calves, and I really loved the bottle calves to teach my daughters work. Because when you have the responsibility, you have to get up every morning, and every evening you have to go feed them. I was teaching them a good lesson. So we did that. And after like 2 years of doing that, when we would sell the calves after weaning, as 500, 600, 700 pounders, whatever they were, I did the math and I'm like, this isn't working. You can't pay for what it cost me to feed the cow all year to sell the calf. Like, this isn't good. Yeah. So the whole time we were doing this, I was improving my facilities, building fence, building feed bunks, building, hay sheds, things like that. And I was like, we really kind of have a premier facility for a small scale, so we should be raising a premier product. So then I heard about Wagyu. And I was actually going to buy my first ones from Kathy Code out in your neck of the woods in Idaho. And then I looked up this company called Plum Creek Wagyu, and they're like 20 minutes down the road from me. And I thought, oh, crap, really? Somebody's got these in Nebraska. So long story short, I went to them, and they said, hey, we can sell you some here. You don't have to ship them all the way from Idaho. And I said, okay. So I started there, and I bought, I think my first purchase was 5 cows and a bull. And then I started raising them and selling the fats back to them. And then they were just taking it all the way, and I was providing them to them. That cultivated a really good thing because I had a little bit bigger space to grow them, and I had a feed system set up. So they started having me feed all their steers. And then the next thing you know, I ended up buying up Plum Creek. So 2 years ago, the beginning of 2023, I took over at Plum Creek. So now I take it all the way from start to finish.
Nice. And it's all full blood.
What's that?
It's all full blood?
Yes, we have some F1s. I'm getting away from the F1s and going more to all full blood. Like everything we put on the ground this year is full blood. I'm going to breed a few Angus this year with my Wagyu bulls. But very, very little focus on F1. It's going to be primarily full blood because I'm small volume, high quality is that's my game.
Absolutely.
Yeah, man. So,
Yeah, so that's kind of where we got. And now, as of today, we have 125 full blood females. They're all registered. Got about 150 in the fat pen, and bulls and calves, and about 300 animals in total we're managing right now here. So,
geez,
yeah.
so you said they're all accounted for through the American Wagyu Association, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I just got elected to the board of directors on the American Wagyu Association, so my term will start at the beginning of the year. And there's a lot of exciting times with Wagyu in the country right now. Wagyu is still very young and it's in its inception. It's just a baby.
Yeah.
But you still run out into people every single where I go that are Wagyu. What is that? Is that a cow? Well, yeah, well, sort of, you know. And so, there's such a tremendous opportunity for growth in this industry. And part of the things that the American Wagyu Association is going to be doing is promoting the growth of the breed, the education of the consumer, and try to get a more consistent product out there for the consumer, as well as a bunch of stuff from the breeders. But I'll talk about the consumer stuff right now. They're going to be launching a program called Authentic Wagyu, and the Authentic Wagyu program is going to basically allow you to put a stamp similar to certified Angus beef on your packages, and that's going to mean across the country I think it would be governed and basically monitored by USDA that if you put this stamp on your product, you have met the criteria of it's a full blood, it's this percentage IMF, whatever the stipulation is. So that way there's some semblance across all the different areas of the country. So if you buy it on the West Coast and it has the Authentic Wagyu stamp on it, and you buy it in Connecticut, it has the Authentic Wagyu, it's going to meet a certain level of quality standard. So wow. I'm really excited about all that because that's going to help. And we're also going to run, I believe the association is going to run a bunch of educational programs to help educate consumers, chefs, restaurants, food service industry, all those things to just promote the awesome beef that it is.
Man. Yeah. Well, first and foremost, anything we can do to help that out, man, please always feel free to reach out to us, dude, because we would love to keep spreading the word because it's pretty cool once you make that change. Once you have Wagyu beef, you're like, oh my God, this is something totally different. And
it's amazing.
Some of it isn't even that much more expensive than what you're buying at the grocery store. So
no,
I think it's pretty cool, man.
Yeah, we're selling hamburger and ground for $6-7 a pound, and it's like I should never have a pound of that on the shelf because all the local folks should be just buying 10 pounds a week and taking it home because I always tell people, I'm like, if you're afraid of spending the money, take a pack of burger, go home, cook whatever you're normally cooking for the week, hamburgers, spaghetti, pizza, and just throw that Wagyu burger in there, and it'll kick it up a few notches just by adding the burger. That's it.
Easily. Sure. Hey, okay, so with that Authentic Wagyu stamp, you said it was, had to be for full blood. Is there going to be like an F1 cross stamp and a F2 and 3 or anything like that, or is it just full blood?
And you'll have to excuse my ignorance because I haven't started my term yet, and I don't know all the details, and I don't think they've all been finalized. But yes, I believe there's going to be multiple grades, but don't quote me on that. I'm not 100% positive yet.
Okay, cool.
I think there might be I don't know. It'll be a full blood F1, whatever they're going to be, the designations and stuff. I don't know that, but that's the nuts and bolts of the program, and it's going to do some really good things for everybody.
How is Wagyu on the East Coast? Do you think it's further along on the East Coast than it is on the West Coast, or vice versa, or do you know anything about that? Because one example real quick is I was watching Hell's Kitchen with Gordon Ramsay. And he does it on the West Coast, and he was talking about having these beautiful Wagyu steaks. And then he just started one. He's doing it on the East Coast, and he's talking about having a Kobe beef steak. And I'm like, that's not Kobe beef. Like, we know that's Wagyu. But, I'm wondering if, maybe they're a little bit behind with the verbiage, or maybe it's just a random occurrence.
Yeah. Kobe obviously confuses a lot of people because that's only comes from a region. That's an area in Japan. So I think that's a name that gets thrown out there a lot and gets misused. But my guess would be the West Coast probably has some better quality stuff just because everything's getting imported from Asia over there.
Mm,
And a lot of the stuff from Australia comes in over there.
yeah,
The Japanese stuff, I think, all comes in through the West Coast, obviously, geographically.
yeah,
So there's going to be a lot more of the actual authentic A5 from Japan on the West Coast, and they got to ship it 3,000 miles to get it to the East Coast. So
yeah.
um, I honestly don't know. I mean, I know in the different regions, there's people that raise them, and the most expensive part about raising Wagyu or raising any cattle is the feed.
Yeah.
And so everybody's always trying to cut costs because that's the bottom dollar. I mean, it's a tremendous amount of money. Like basically, a fat here in Nebraska eats about $5 a day worth of corn per head.
Man.
When they're over 1,000, when they're under 1,000 pounds, it's about $3.50 a day, and that's my cost. If you go to the coast, if you're going to feed them the same stuff I am, it's going to cost in upwards of $6 to $8 to $9 a day per head, and so
Yes.
you start incurring some massive costs when you're feeding them for 2 years.
Yeah.
Because the full bloods you don't harvest until 30 months, so they go on feed about 6 months of age, and they're on feed for over 700 days. So on the coast and in other places, there's different commodities. There's different byproducts you can use. Like for example, there's places that have potatoes,
Mhm.
so you can feed them potato peels and all kinds of things like that. And out in Pennsylvania, they feed them Hershey's chocolate byproducts, so whatever those might be, And so all that stuff changes the flavor of your beef.
Yeah.
The first time I realized how much you can change the flavor of your beef was early on. We bought a show steer that was like somebody's 4-H show steer, and we bought it to harvest it, and we harvested it. And every time you took a bite, if you close your eyes, if you've ever smelt a sack of sweet feed, it has that molasses smell.
Okay.
Every time you took a bite, you could close your eyes and you're like, yeah, that's molasses. I can taste it. I was
Wow.
like, wow, you can really change the flavor of it. So
Yeah.
here in Nebraska, what we have going for us is we're right in the breadbasket of all the farming community. We have all the wheat, the beans, milo, corn, everything is here at commodity cost. We don't have to pay anything to ship it. It's literally grown on the other side of the fence from our pens. So we're able to feed out without using any byproducts, so to speak. The only thing that would be considered a byproduct is a little bit of dry grain distillers from the ethanol factories, but that's a very, very small, like 1% of what we feed.
Okay.
So otherwise, we're just feeding straight corn and wheat and soybeans from here. So that definitely changes the flavor. I think corn is a very good flavor for beef. So we like it.
Yeah, man. And and corn does get a little bit of a bad rap. I think some people think of commodity beef and being shoved corn down their throat so they can fatten them up at the end. But when we
Yeah.
talked, I think your feeding process, the way you feed Wagyu beef, since it's a longer, it takes a lot longer to get these cows up to harvest. I think
Yeah.
it's important. It's different. You're not just taking a set amount of cows, shoving corn down their throat, and then getting them off. How do you guys? What's your feeding process?
So what we're doing is we have automatic feeder set up. So we have a bulk bin by the road, and this bulk bin gets filled up by a big grain truck. They come by and auger the grain right into it. It goes into a receiver, and there's basically a trough that's full of our grain ration 24/7. They can eat as much as they want or as little as they want. So they're not forced to eat anything.
Yeah.
They just eat when they're hungry. And Wagyu are awesome. They're so laid back. If you tried that with commercial animals, they would kill themselves because they would eat too much. They would just die. But
Why is that?
Wagyu will, yeah. So mine, it's unlimited feed 24/7. So what they do, it's funny when you watch them. You go out there and there's only feed space for 2 or 3 head at a time, and there's 80 head in that pen. But they never fight. They never get excited. They all just kind of walk in, and they're so chill. They're so laid back. They just walk in, they eat for 5 minutes, and then they go grab a bite of hay, and then they just go lay down. And then they wait and get up, get a drink of water, and go lay back down. They're so mellow and laid back. That's one of the things that really set me on getting Wagyu when we first got them, is just how easy they are to work with. They're just the
Right.
most mellow, laid back animal. I just love being around.
Cool.
That's crazy, man.
I want to come hang out and some chill with some Wagyu.
You could. You
Yeah.
could. We've got some you can sit on. I mean, if you go out in I thought about doing this podcast from the feed pen because it's hilarious. Because if you just sit down in the fat pen, you just put a lawn chair or a 5-gallon bucket down there, In 5 minutes, you'll have them nibbling on your shirt and pulling on your hat and licking your face, and they're curious. They want to know what's going on, and they're not afraid of me. And that's what part of what makes these animals taste so good is the handling practices where they're not scared of you.
Yeah.
They know I'm their friend. I'm bringing them food. I'm a good guy. I'm not a bad guy.
You're the
So
good guy.
you know, when they don't get all amped up when I walk in there. They're more like, "Hey, what are you doing? Let's see what you're doing." You know, when we're in there fixing fence, I'm taking selfies. You know, and I've got their heads right here. They're licking my ear. You know, I mean, it's funny. They're a chill animal.
That's crazy. Why is that? Just genetically, just chill, or what?
I think it's part of their breed. They're just not a. You know, originally, I don't know how far back you guys have gone, but like way back in the day in Japan, they were used as draft animals.
Yep.
So originally they were pulling plows and doing, you know, hauling things around.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if, you know, that type of work, it's not like they're a thoroughbred.
Yeah.
They're just a mellow, laid back animal. And that's just their MO. They move slow. Like when you wean Wagyu cattle, you bring these 300, 400, 500 pounders down the alley, you got to get behind them and push them. Like, come on, guys, let's go. You bring in a pen of 500-pound Angus, you better be ready to play because they are just going to run you over. I mean, they will run through you, over you, under you. They don't even care. These guys, you're like, come on, guys, let's move. Let's go.
Wow.
They're just that laid back. And if you don't mistreat them, that's the way they stay.
Yeah. They've just
Yeah,
always been
it's pretty.
treated well, though. Like, maybe it's just like genetically, they've just always been treated well to like be calm
Well,
and like they have their space and not be rushed. Where Angus
yeah,
is kind of like just been bred to be rushed and
it's,
you know, and so
it's different. I mean, you know, they've got a big problem in Angus right now, and not dogging them, but just they've got this congenital heart failure problem where they've been genetically bred to grow so fast, which is amazing. They do. I mean, they put on 5 pounds a day. Like mine are gaining 2. But at the end of about the time they're fat, they're having a very big problem. Their hearts just stop. They just fall over dead, you know. Wagyu. And then when I was actually, there's a guy studying that here in Nebraska, and I talked to him. He's like, well, I kind of want to see if Wagyu have this problem or not. I go, well, I got cows that are 16 years old still having babies. He's like, oh, no, they don't have that problem, do they? I'm like, no, they don't. Well, I got a bull that's 8 years old and 2,000 pounds. He's healthy as can be, like a 2-year-old. So
That's your biggest one?
yeah, that's the biggest one. He's full grown. He's like 2,200 pounds right now.
And
He's
how
a big
old?
old boy. Yep.
8 years
How old
old.
He's
is he?
8
Man.
years old. But he's still in his prime. I got 2 bulls that are 8 years old on the property. They're nowhere near the end of life. They got a lot left in them.
Yeah.
Out at Bar R, they've got a 2,000-pound Shigatani is his name, and he's 18
Hmm.
years old.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And he's
yeah.
still the sire.
That's
So
Tyler's
I've
best
got
friend
a
out
cow.
there, man.
Yep, I got a cow that's 16 that had a calf this year. I mean, it's just a legend.
That's
wow.
cool, man. You know, when we were chatting before, you talked about how you wanted to, you know, raise almost A5 quality beef. So like,
Yes.
that's cool, man. That really caught my attention. So we kind of had a fun conversation about how it's really hard to do that, and how we have full bloods here that don't look like A5. And we talked
Yes.
to sustainable farms, sustainable foods,
Yep. Yep.
Wagyu, and he was talking about how he has a Wagyu in Japan and here, and he was saying it's really hard. Like, we know how to do it, but it's just not. It's bred into the Japanese culture on how they raise these, and you have to be extremely patient and do the same thing every
Yes.
single day. And it's almost like we're like just not created to do that. The Japanese are very good at that.
Yeah.
How would you go about making or creating A5 quality Wagyu?
Yeah, so I mean, hats off to the Japanese folks. They're so detail oriented and they're so meticulous. And I mean, when they cut off the exports in like '93, I believe, you know, they said Wagyu is our national treasure. We can't let any more of this out of our country. And they take it serious. Like, this is like raising an infant to them their whole life. Like, it's that kind of attention. So we're just not set up to do that here. But what we're going to try to do, and what I'm working on, is what we've learned from our experience in harvesting the few that we have and talking to other people and doing a ton of research, is that the closer you can get to the original foundation animals that were imported from Japan, the better your marbling quality is and the better your flavor profile is.
Yep.
So that's challenging because nothing's came over here since '93. But we actually put some calves on the ground this year that were from original import embryos that were brought over from Japan. And I have two of them. I got a bull and a heifer. I don't have them registered yet, but they're about 3 months old. So we're going to take those kind of animals and we're going to populate basically first generation animals again, similar to what happened in the early 90s. And through that and through the genetics and through our feed program, we're going to get as close as we can. Are we ever going to be as good as Japan? I don't know. We'll see. I don't think so. Maybe. We're going to get as close as we can. Let me tell you that, because my program's not volume. We're not selling these things 500 at a time. I'm only raising, 130 a year. So I'm trying to do high quality, low volume. So I want these to be the most magnificent carcasses I can possibly produce. Yeah. And so mainly through the genetics, through the feed program, we use Dr. Jimmy Horner's feed, which I know is going to be a huge thing. He's been over to Japan 49 times, working on feed. So he knows. So our feed is on point. So basically then it's getting my facility up to par, which I've got a few more things I want to change. And between that and the genetics, that's kind of the whole package. And if I can do all those things well, we're going to get real close.
Cool. And it is very different though, because like we talked about, the Japanese they're usually raising maybe 10 to 20 Wagyu cattle,
yeah.
where so they're very, very limited amounts, that very high quality. But I mean, yep. That's cool, man. I mean, that's cool to shoot for that, and you have some of the original genetics. I mean, yeah, dude, I'm excited to see how that pans out.
Yeah,
that'd be cool.
Yeah, it's really neat. It's really fun to pursuing the old stuff is fascinating. Some people say it's out of date and it's out of style, it's out of touch, but it's like the further you get into it and the more people you talk to that really know, the closer you are to those original imports. I mean, they brought over their best at the time. Wow. They brought over the really good stuff because they wanted to make money off it.
Yeah.
They didn't bring over the B team. I'm guessing mostly what they brought over was the A team. So if you can get back to that stuff, and it's just like anything else in genetics, if you look at racehorses, my daughter does barrel horses, or you look at actual thoroughbred racehorses, it's all about that pedigree. Who's the mom? Who's the dad? How much did they win? How much potential do they have? Yeah. Cattle are the same thing. Once you've bred them 20 different ways, your pedigree is kind of just, it's kind of blended in and not as great as a pure foundation bred pedigree. So the closer you can get back to those, the better your potential is for making beef.
Mm-hmm. Totally, man. Totally. Let me ask you a question. Why do you think people are scared of Wagyu beef? Because we get that a lot at our butcher shop, where people just look at the label and say, I can't afford it. I can't do that. I don't want to cook it. I don't want to screw it up. Let me just get this.
Yep. One of the things that people tell me the most is, I'm just scared to cook it. I'm just going to burn it. I'm just going to burn it. Yeah. And I'm like, well, okay. As long as you don't like your stuff like a hockey puck, it's going to be fine. So you try to tell people, the easiest thing that I tell people, and this is the lazy man's way of doing it, I said, buy a sous vide. Mm-hmm. Everything I sell is in a vacuum packed bag. It's good for 90 minutes at 200 degrees boiling water. Get your sous vide, throw your tomahawk in there, throw your filet in there. It doesn't matter. Turn it on and walk away, forget about it. Take it out and sear it. Done. You cannot screw it up. Yeah. So I tell them to try things like that. That's probably the biggest thing. And then just I call it the WTF is Wagyu. Like, nobody knows. Like, what the hell is this stuff? Like, it's expensive. Why? And the other thing that gets them is there's a lot of things in this world you can buy that are expensive that you really don't get any substantial value out of. Yeah. This is not one of those. There is a difference. If you're getting high-grade beef and you're paying the price and it is what you paid for, it's a true fine dining experience every time.
Absolutely. Tyler, when you were cooking up the other day that tri-tip, and tell them, what the people said about that.
I like to do a little side by side, like with your samples and stuff. And I had a piece of A5. I had a fat on tri-tip, skirt steak. I did them all, and every one of them was like, this is the best flavor. The tri-tip was the best flavor out of everything, even ribeyes, New Yorks, all that stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
those
tri-tips. They're spectacular.
But when people try it for the first time, like if you get a person that likes to eat beef, has never had Wagyu, and then they actually try it, like you just see like their face, like they're like, I didn't know that I could things could taste this good. Like it's really incredible when somebody really takes the time to take a nice bite and actually enjoy it. I mean, it's like having a nice wine. If you've never had a really nice wine and then you have like one of the best wines, you're like, holy shit, like why am I not drinking this all the time? I mean, of course
I didn't get screwed. Yep, exactly. No, it's a deal. And I like, especially when I'm cooking it for the first time for somebody, I always think less is more. I don't even season them hardly. Just the flavor of the meat itself will take care of itself. You don't have to put seasoning on them.
I know. It's so.
I can actually now smell. I can almost smell a quality of what we're cooking back there, whether it's a F1 cross, full blood. Of course, we sear off A5 every now and then to treat the stock and whatnot. But I was sitting right here last week, and I gave my sous chef a little sample, and I was like, "That's a New York strip."
That's the good stuff.
You're like,
yeah, it's crazy now.
Yeah, you might have a problem.
It's a good problem. So Adam, what's your favorite cut of meat, and how do you like to cook it?
So the other night, my daughters pulled out some meat. Of course, it's really bad when you have a giant freezer of access and you have full access to beef all the time.
Right.
So my kids are in high school, and I was really busy, and they cooked me something, and I didn't even know what it was, and it looked kind of like a New York, kind of like a Denver. I wasn't really sure, and so I took a couple bites, and I go, wow. I go, all right, what was that? She's like, that's a chuck roast off of F1. I go, holy shit. I go, damn. I mean, I could cut it with a fork. And I was like, wow. I mean, I think my one daughter and I we think the Denvers are probably the best. Honestly, I think that the shape, the size, they're just the perfect portion. We cut them about 1 inch thick. They're nice. There's something about a Denver. The chuck eyes, holy shit. For the money, the chuck eyes and the Denvers all day long. Yep. I love me a good tomahawk, though. Frickin' love a good tomahawk.
My guy.
Yeah.
I think you and I are best friends right now because everybody talks shit to me because I love tenderloin, dude. I love it.
Yeah, you do.
But the Denver steak, I'm doing that, and right after we're done talking, I'm going to go back there and cut 3 of those F1 cross. We call them zabatons, but it's exactly the same way. Inch thick.
Yep.
7 ounces probably per steak.
I think ours are 8 or 10, something like that. Yeah.
We sell them in the case for like
$20.
18, $20.
Mm-hmm. I think that's somewhere. Yeah. And I mean, for the price point, for the size, they don't have any gristle in them. They don't have any veins in them. They're just the bomb.
Yeah.
And people don't know what they are. Otherwise, I'd be constantly sold out.
Yeah. Our people know now because we're getting special requests all day long. Like, hey, save me 2 pounds of zab. Blah, blah, blah. It's like,
yep.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got customers that order 3-inch thick tomahawks all day long. They're like, send me 6 of them. I'm like, cool, man.
Yes.
Once they get them and they're like, yeah, that's where it's at.
Yeah.
I like those.
Oh, yeah. You go back to not eating anything else. But, and one of the misconceptions, obviously, we like to talk about is that it's not always that expensive, right? Like, I mean, you're talking, if you think about wine, like really nice wine generally is pretty expensive. But like with Wagyu, I mean, if you like having New York strip and you're buying a $25, $30 New York strip at the store, you can get a $18 to $22 zabuton that's going to blow your mind. It's going to be 1,000 times better than that. So there's so many different cuts, right, in the animal. And then your chuck roast, the chuck roast, Tyler, you think the chuck roast is like the Delmonico? Yep, the Delmonico steak. Yeah, we just did something on that too. But yeah, we're selling those for about $20. It's unreal.
For the price point or a flat iron, grab a flat iron. Holy crap, a full blood flat iron, bro,
dude,
out of this world. I mean, people have no idea. Like, I tell people, this would be the best shit you've ever put in your mouth in your life. I'll tell you that right now. Just try.
Have you ever tried to cook a flat iron, not steam it out, cook it whole, just like a brisket, like a Texas style brisket?
I have none.
Do it.
Ooh.
It's that crazy sinew through the middle. Actually breaks down and melts almost like gelatin. So you don't. Nice. It doesn't have that any chewy, gristly to it. That'd
be awesome.
It's amazing, dude.
I was thinking the flat iron, like when we cut them up into steaks, the flat iron looks the most like A5 to me. It's like the most finely marbled, beautiful.
Oh yeah. Yeah, when I'm unpacking, I'm always looking at them like, holy shit, look at that. Them flat irons got marbling like there's no tomorrow.
Yeah.
I mean, even on a not that great a carcass, you pull that flat iron out and you're like, damn, that looks good.
Always.
Dude.
Yeah.
Hey, well, speaking of marbling, man, you were telling me that you smoked A5 brisket. How did that go?
Yeah. So over the last few years, I've been trying to figure out how to do briskets really good, one at a time, and I'm not that great at it. But I ended up starting to figure it out. My brothers and I work together, and you know, you get them up. We usually put them in like a regular beef brisket, an Angus or whatever. You'll put it in, you get it to the stall, get it up to 203, pull it out, wrap it, rest it. Yeah, it's perfect. So the first one I cooked, I started like the same time, and it was like supper time, and that sucker was like at 170. I'm like, oh shit, we got a problem here. So I started backing it up earlier. Well, now I start putting them in at like 5 o'clock at night, or even 3 o'clock in the afternoon for the next evening, because I usually let them sit mostly at 12 hours or so at like a real low temperature just to smoke them. And that'll get it up to about 150, 155. And then it's like 18, 20 hours to get up to 200. It's insane. You got to just keep babysitting it and babysitting. And what I do is I put a probe on each side, and then every so many hours I have to go flip it until I keep both sides equal temperature, you know. So I spin it around. But when you get it right and you rest that thing, of course, like getting it out of the pan, yeah, it's a deal. You got to really be careful getting it out and getting it into that aluminum pan because it just wants to fall apart and just go. You know, there's so much juice, but when you get it right, you cut that thing open and I mean, you got to be careful because it's going to be fluid. I mean, there's so much juice off that thing, but when you cut into that and you take a bite, you got to almost put it on bread. It's so rich. It's so good. You just pound it.
Bro, do you have to put that like on a pan or something? I always feel like if you put it on like the grate and smoke it, I felt like it would just like melt through. But how do you? Is it
oh yeah, no. I put it in an aluminum pan because it'll just fall apart.
Yeah,
it just falls apart. It's just nuts. Like you can barely pick it up, and if you cut it on a cutting board, like you got to have like a barrier of paper towels to catch all the juice because it just runs everywhere. It's so juicy. But man, when I cook one, we usually make about 3 or 4 phone calls because I can't cook a small one. I cook a big one, and oh man, yeah, we get people that come over and they're just dying over that stuff. It's so good.
How big are they? About 24 pounds?
You know, I don't remember. I'm sure they're every bit of 18 pounds. They don't seem to be as big as an Angus brisket. I don't know why. Even off my big steers, the briskets aren't as big as Angus for whatever reason. They don't get that huge. Like 12, 13, 14, 15 pounds is pretty big from what I've seen anyway.
Totally.
Man. Yeah, I'm glad you did that because I always wondered, you know, when we get A5 over here, we generally order the New York and the ribeye. Maybe we'll do some top sirloin, but like we don't see all the cuts. So I'm like, what do they do with an A5 brisket? Right. What do they do with the rump? I mean, do you have any idea? I mean, you're not grinding it, right? Are you just cutting little?
No, I'm sure they're not.
Or what?
You know, when I was at the American Wagyu Association conference, and there was a chef there, and I'm trying to think of his name off the top of my head. He did a bunch of work with the Japanese, and he says, well, what do you guys do with all your burger when you guys cut these up? And they're like, we have like 10 pounds of burger per animal. We don't make burger. Something like 10 or 20. It was like jaw dropping. It's like, no, we use everything for everything. We don't waste anything. I'm like, how do we find out what they do? Because that's what we want to do. You know? Exactly right. So like, I need to go over there and just figure this out because like they use everything. Wow. Because it's all got a quality way better than ground.
Yeah. You know what I want? I want an A5 Terrace Major.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That would. Oh,
yeah, I could see that.
That would be something.
You know, we just talked to Superior Wagyu out of Montana and where else? Wyoming. That's right. And he was saying he likes the like the London broiler, the rump steaks. They just cut steaks off of the rump. He's like, it's full blood. It's just like he's like, it's a little chewy, which he's like, I like. Some people like that extra chewy. Yep. He's like, but it's beautifully marbled, and it's some of the best steaks I've ever had. So, just the amount of steakable items on a Wagyu cow versus an Angus,
it's crazy.
I mean, almost solves the problem, because when we first got into the beef industry, it was like, man, yeah, you guys want all these New York strips and fucking tenderloins and ribeyes. Well, get rid of 300 pounds of ground for me, and you can have as much as you want, you know.
Oh, shit.
But with this, it's like, well, shit, we could take that London broil, cut it into steaks, and people can cook it up like it's a top sirloin, and it tastes amazing, and it has a little bit of chewiness. I mean, it's pretty cool to see the amount of the steakable items. Really.
It is. And I honestly, I need to get better at that because we still create, 55, 60% ground every time because I just don't know what to do with all these cuts. That's something that I really think needs to be. Maybe the association can help with that. I mean, that'd be some initiative that I'd be behind, like helping all these people figure out how to utilize all this better, because this is a way more valuable product than 50% of it being ground. So that's something I want to learn for my own benefit, but as well as everybody else's.
Well, I think with some of the education that they should be providing that, they're going to be doing maybe next year is maybe like highlighting some of these new Wagyu cuts, and just
absolutely
educating the people that, hey, you know what, if you want a full blood Wagyu steak that doesn't cost $50 a pound, maybe you could, try this London broil and it's only 20, or whatever. Right. Yeah. Like, I mean, that's like for us. I mean, like I said, we get rid of pounds and pounds of Zabs and Delmonico's every single week, and
oh yeah,
because it's a great steakable item at a low price. So
yeah, and like top and bottom rounds, you can even make those into steaks if you cook them right.
Yeah,
which is kind of crazy, but they're good. I mean, we use them. We always use 100% of our rounds for jerky, but I have eaten them as steaks before, and yeah, they're going to be a little tougher. They're not going to be, they're not going to be like a Denver. They're not going to be like a Chuck Eye, but they're pretty darn good.
Yes.
I want some jerky.
I know. Dude.
Yeah, we make some pretty badass full muscle jerky. Not going to lie. It's really good. It's really good. And the jerky, oh shit, man. It's soft, so it's not like chewing on tree bark, Yeah. It's soft, it's got a little fat in it. So if you really got to watch it in the smoker, though. You got to bring your temp up real slow and don't zap all that fat out of there. And when they put it in the package, the package gets a little ooze in it. It's just, it's next level. It's next level.
That is what I'm
That's
talking
awesome,
about.
man.
Yeah,
so
it's amazing.
I want to ask you, Adam, and then Tyler next, and then we're kind of trying to create this Wagyu richness chart where, if you have a A5 ribeye, it would be at the top, but maybe F1 cross top sirloin is down at the bottom. Still beautiful and well marbled, just not quite as rich, And so, we're kind of trying to create this where maybe a F1 New York's kind of in the middle. So where do you think you would fall? Do you like that really rich, or do you like that more F1 Cross New York, or maybe even a full blood, Terrace Major, which maybe falls right under there?
Yeah.
Just kind of depends.
I mean, me personally, the more the merrier. I mean, I like it. I like it as rich as I can get it. I'll take that full blood tri-tip, that full blood tomahawk, that full blood Denver that's 50% white. I'll take that every day because just because of the tenderness and the flavor, and it's just amazing. I can't get enough of that stuff. And the thing about that stuff is, though, and I'm a big guy and I can eat a lot, but you can't eat a lot of that. Like, it's not you're not going to eat it. You're not going to eat a 16-ounce tomahawk in one setting when it's a good one. You're not going to do that. You're going to get sick if you do that. So that's another thing that, I mean, not in a bad way, but like, we need to change the way we eat Wagyu too. It's not like you need a 16 to 20-ounce cowboy ribeye. You don't need that. You need smaller pieces. It's easier to cook the thick ones. I get that, but when we whip out a 2.5, 3 pound tomahawk, that feeds my whole family of 4. I mean, it's everybody's plenty.
Perfect.
But that's where I like it. I like the higher end of stuff, and the more marbling, the better for me.
Hey, Tyler, what about you? Where do you fall on that?
I think it depends on the day, depends on the cut, depends on the steak.
For sure.
If I were to go, I haven't eaten anything all day except a granola bar and a banana. If I go in the kitchen right now, I'd probably eat a 12-ounce New York strip.
Which
F1 cross 50-50, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm hungry and I want to be able to eat more than the size of my fist, right?
Yeah,
because I'm glutton for it. But yeah, I really like the F1 50-50 on the higher end marbled cuts.
Yeah.
But when you go full blood, I like the lower end marbled cuts or a Zab from a full blood, dude.
Perfect. Yeah. That's the thing, man. Meat, I'll get a full blood. We'll get a full blood New York in here, and I'll take it home and I'll cook it, and me and my kid will split it, and that's enough. And I love to eat meat. Like I'll go if you give me a prime steak, man, I'm eating that 16 ounce or easy. But like having a nice full blood New York, I'm like, give me half, and I'm like, this is great. It's great meat. And it's, we didn't even talk about the nutritional benefits, but it's got more nutritional benefits than prime, obviously, and it's fucking great.
Well, I think this is an important topic because nobody's wrong. Whether you like the 15% F1 or you like a 25% F1 or you like a 50% full blood, an A5, it doesn't matter where you fall into that spectrum. Yeah. It's all going to be substantially better than commercial beef, than any commercial beef you're ever going to buy anywhere. Yep. The lowest F1 cuts that you're probably going to see is going to be half better than prime, maybe double. And so that whole eating experience is it's next level. It kind of ruins you once you start eating it. You go to a restaurant to buy a nice steak for $60 and sit down and you're like, it tastes like ass.
Yeah.
Like that's not good. So so that's what I like to tell people. I'm like, we have the F1. So what we do is we grade all of our carcasses with the MIJ camera. So we kill them. We hang them for 2 days. We go in and split it between the 12th, 13th ribeye, stick the MIJ camera in, get a meat image. And that tells us your exact IMF. That tells them your BMS score, tells you your marble fineness. It grades it on the color, the fat contrast between the white being white and the red being red, and it gets you a number. And so we divide it, and BMS 8 and higher goes on the full blood label, and BMS 7 through 5 goes in the F1 label. So there's no wrong answer to that question, but it is interesting to see the different flavors. It seems to be generally easier to sell the F1, not only because of the price point, but people look at the full blood steak if they've never seen it before and go, well, that's all fat. Why do I want that? It's like,
I don't need all that fat.
You need to try it.
Yeah.
So when you do your BMS, is your BMS highest graded 8 usually on your cattle?
No. So BMS 8, we're pretty commonly hitting 8 to 10. Cool. Is about where we're at with the full bloods. We've hit some that say they're BMS 12, but it doesn't look the same as like a Japanese A5. Right. It doesn't look the same. When we've hit 47%, and they're snow white, but they're not like what you get when you import from Japan. They're not the same.
Yeah.
Right.
So most of our stuff, I think we average around BMS 9 in full bloods. So that's about where they're at. And then we're usually BMS 6, 7 on the F1s. So we're pretty typically we're 18 to 22% IMF on our F1s. So
that's IMF, intermuscular fat.
Yeah, they're good.
Yum.
And they're on feed 6 months less. So we harvest those at 24 months, and they're just giants. Yeah, we took some in the other day. They're 1,800 pounds. They're just huge.
Jeez. Wow.
Great.
I don't hear a lot of the BMS talk a lot, except for the Japanese scale. But maybe I'm just not asking the right questions. But that's great that you're using that.
Well,
and talking about it. So.
That's because that's the only meat that goes that high.
Yeah. Right.
Prime Plus covers everything else. I mean, nobody else can touch it.
Yeah.
So.
That's I'm so happy though to hear that there will be that like certified Wagyu label, just because I mean right now it's just everything's kind of prime plus, on that scale.
Yeah, and
it's not fair.
That's a shitty thing. Yeah, I mean it's the USDA is making progress. It's very slow progress because it's our government. The Japanese have a scale, the A, all the way up to A5. Then there's the BMS scale that Australia uses. Like they've all adapted to one because they've embraced Wagyu. But here, Wagyu's like the black sheep. If I go to a cattle event and it's Angus and Hereford and whatever, like I'm like off in the corner, like nobody wants to talk to me. And it's like they're all scared. They're like, get them Coriani looking, skinny butt, strange looking things out of here. I'm like, till you put it in your mouth, then you'll be like, oh, I need some of that. So
let's get that.
So yeah, the USDA is doing their part slowly. I wish we could do more. They're approving some higher grades now. I don't remember what they're called off the top of my head, but that's all in the works that they're going to be making some There's some grades that are higher than prime plus. I think I've seen it, but I don't remember what it is off the top of my head. It's not going to go anywhere near as high as like A5, A4, A3. It's not that high, but it's going to be more than prime because they're realizing, I think, I bet you if you really got into the behind the scenes, most of these big beef companies are using Wagyu bulls because the demand for Prime Plus is on a steady increase, where the demand for beef overall is fairly flat.
Yeah.
Everybody wants more quality, and the easiest way to get that is Wagyu bulls. So.
Yeah, I was gonna ask. You find yourself in a corner at some of these events, and do you think that they are the big beef is kind of scared of Wagyu right now, or do you think that they're just gonna embrace it and start to bring it in because everyone's gonna want that?
I think they're all embracing it. Honestly, I think a lot of them are already using a lot of Wagyu.
Yeah,
I don't think they're going to tell you that, but I think they are.
it's funny.
I really do. I think they're all developing their own bulls and they're using them throughout their feedlots way more than people will give it credit for.
Wow, that's funny. Okay. That's good. That's good though. I mean, like we all want better beef. It's better for you. It's more nutritional. It looks better, tastes better.
Yep.
Like that should. It seems like an easy thing, right? We should just start to slowly integrate that. We talked to a lot of people, and we were at the Bar Wagyu auction. We talked to guys down in Florida who were like, "I'm just going to start to bring it in, and create 25% Wagyu cows down just to like improve my Angus right now."
Yep.
And I just think people are just starting to see that and, starting to explore that. So I think it's a great move.
Here in Nebraska, the cattle outnumber the humans like 3-1.
Yeah.
Like there's a couple million people and there's like 10 million cattle in Nebraska. And it's really hard to get these generational operations to think of anything besides what they've been doing for the last 50 years. And so to introduce a foreign beef, so to speak, they think it's foreign. They don't, it's from Japan. They don't know anything about it. They got weird names like Shiga Shiga Tony. They're like, what the hell is that?
Yeah.
Like they're used to like, Big Bob or Billy Blue Balls or whatever is the bull. And so they just don't even understand it. They don't even want to know about it until you start AIing some cows or bull breeding them. And then now I got a lot of guys, they'll buy, 10 straws a year. And they're like, well, between me and my Uncle Bob and Billy Joe, we harvest 4 a year and we're always going to use Wagyu bulls because, man, does that stuff taste good. And it's like, yeah, no shit. No shit. It does taste awful good. So slowly it'll get more and more accepted. If people want higher quality, that's the way to get it.
Yeah, man.
Well, we'll do everything we can to help you.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate it. Yeah. And it's just a lot of education, like since I started selling beef, I really, even on the social media, even out on boots on the ground when we're doing farmers markets or events, if you can give out samples and that's what really sells it. You go to a farmer's market and you're grilling up New Yorks and handing out little bites on a toothpick, you're going to sell every one of them because people take a bite and they're like, whoa, that's a New York. They're like, that's different. Oh yeah. Yeah, it's different. It's different. And so once you get it, I always say, once you get your meat in your mouth, it's good. It's good. They like it.
Never go.
So that's the challenge every time. Get them to try it, and that's all over with.
Oh my God, that should be the title of the podcast. Once you get your meat in their mouth.
Yeah, once you get my meat in your mouth, it's over.
It's over.
Yeah.
Oh, it's facts, man. Facts.
It's true. It's true. Once they've tried it, then they don't want to go back. It's like taking a kid to a farm pond for the first time they've ever went fishing. They catch 16-inch bass every cast, and then they go to a public lake. They're like, "Ooh, this sucks." It's the same thing. Same thing.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, sweet. Is there anything else you want the world to know about Wagyu before we sign it off here?
Man, not much. I think people just need to give it a fair chance. Go try it. Don't be afraid of it. Don't let the price scare you. Find some of the cheaper cuts because even the cheaper cuts are amazing. Like we talked about earlier, the Zabatons, the Denvers, the Chuck Eyes, Flat Irons. I mean, even the sirloins. They're not like a sirloin you buy at Walmart. Let me tell you, it is a totally different level. Totally different level.
Oh, yeah.
And when we were at the AGM, the annual convention, they said that we got a new board of directors. We got a new, I guess, not president. We got the new guy that's in charge of the association. I can't think of his title right now anyway. But he said one thing that's fascinating about the Wagyu breed is he said the percent of people going farm to table in Wagyu is just off the charts. Mm-hmm. In your traditional beef, it's a very low percentage of producers that take them farm to market, farm to table. In Wagyu, it's prevalent. And I think that's some of the coolest stuff about Wagyu is that when you're at an event or you're buying my beef, like when you see people walking out of a store with your product and they're taking that to their family, it gives you such a sense of accomplishment and level of responsibility to provide them with quality products. So like I take it really serious. You know, we never give hormones. A lot of that's very, very common in all commercial beef. They do it to get the rate of gain and this and that. Wagyu, it wouldn't even work. I mean, they're growing, their frame grows till they're 24 months plus. So giving them steroids would just ruin the whole thing, you know. And so I think the value that the smaller producers, you know, in the Wagyu industry can provide to these customers is it's second to none. It's top level. I mean, you're not going to get this value off a corporate farm. It just doesn't work that way. You're not going to get the quality. So give it a try and give it a fair shakedown. And we ship to the lower 48 states every week. So look us up.
Yeah, how can they find you? How can they find you? Because you sent us.
Yeah, just go to the website. Awesome. It's PlumCreekWagyuBeef.com. We got a website. You can get on there and just check out. You can buy a whole beef, half beef. You can just buy a pound of burger. We'll ship it right to you.
Dude,
yeah, you can be a full blood F1. All the choices are there.
Dude, we've shipped
a whole beef before. What's that?
That was cool to get that box, man, and unpack it, and dry ice, and see, you know, all the different cuts that you provide. You know, I think there's brisket in there, shabu shabu, tenderloin, carne asada. Do you just use it skirt for the carne asada? Is that the same thing?
Yeah, the flap steaks. Yep.
Cool. Yeah,
and that stuff. That's another bargain product. Dude, you want to make a burrito that's next level? Holy crap. You talk about tender, juicy meat, baby, it's over. That stuff's so good.
Yeah.
So good.
The bavette. We call that bavette or flap, right? Yeah.
Yep.
That's dope, man. Well, sweet, dude. Yeah,
thanks a lot for having me.
Yeah, man, thank you. Once again, look up PlumCreekWagyuBeef.com. And you'll be able to order anything you need there, man. This guy's got plenty of cows, plenty of beef for you. And Adam, thank you so much, man. We gotta come visit you, man. We gotta make some trips around the U.S. to see everything.
That'd be awesome
on the podcast. But
yeah, we put you up for the night and feed you till you can't eat no more.
Ah, man, that ain't bad.
Challenge.
Oh man, we'll sign it off here for the Meat Dudes. I'm Evan.
All right, thanks guys. Later.
Thank you, buddy.
Adam.